our leaders of South African communities in the room, thank you so much for engaging in music and in the expression of our souls that we are very familiar with as South Africans. While the medical emergency was being attended to, the colleague who had a crisis has been assisted, and we will continue with the program from this point. Thank you so much for your patience. Now, the National Dialogue is a citizen-led process that is built on a belief that our unity is greatest of all our strengths. We come together not to debate our divisions and our differences, but to stitch our country, and I will emphasize this again, back together, thread by thread, story by story, memory by memory. As South Africans, we sometimes suffer short memories. We have forgotten the power of street committees, the solidarity of neighbors, and we have forgotten, most importantly, the solidarity and the rehearsals of our democracy that once bound our communities together. As Dr. Nduduzo Makhathini reminds us in music and in life, rehearsal is not repetition. It is, in fact, a preparation for transformation. And today is part of that ongoing rehearsal for the South African public. It's a step towards the future we want, grounded in the wisdom of our shared past. In this dialogue, we will be asking three radical and very ambitious questions which are rooted in practical design. And these are: what radical changes are required? The second question that we'll be seeking to answer is: how do we respond rapidly to these urgent challenges? And most importantly, how do we rebuild trust? And how do we heal our nation? Now, mine is to ask and plead that we begin in unity, that we begin in courage and in hope. I am Teto Takani Nariadi Mahlakwana, and it's my most honor to be in conversation with you this morning, throughout the day, and over tomorrow. And I am not alone. I am joined in this very important task by my co-director of the program, Lerai Rakoditse.
Sanbonani, South Africa. Ngiyayithanda South Africa. Lento leqedwe kuyenzakalayo yiyona South Africa yami. Yiyona South Africa that I was born free into. So ngicela nje nizishayeleni izandla before we continue. Igama lami nguLerai. I am a speaker, and of course today I will be co-directing the program with you all. I also would like you all to know that I am part of the Youth 20 in co-chairing a meaningful youth engagement and reforming multilateralism. So I'm actually currently engaged in negotiations and processes similar to the one that we are about to start with right now. Over the next year, ward by ward, sector by sector, we are going to speak, listen, and of course, act. Not just here in this convention hall, but in our schools, in our churches, our sports clubs, factories, community halls, all across this beautiful land of South Africa. This dialogue is yours. It is your voice that matters. And the People's Compact that we will one day sign together will be as strong, as inclusive, and as lasting as the memories and commitments that we create together. Over the next year, this dialogue will move beyond these walls, into our wards, our schools, our workplaces, and even our WhatsApp groups. We plan on touching 50,000 people, or having 50,000 ward-led conversations, as well as We plan on holding over 13,500 ward-based conversations and over 50,000 conversations that will be taking place on social media, television, radio, and of course, in our homes. The big goal of the national dialogue is for us to touch 10 million South Africans. I'll say that again. We plan on having conversations with 10 million South Africans throughout the process of the national dialogue. This is about turning conversations into community action plans and sector compacts. We are going to be ending with a People's Compact in June 2026. This will be the national agreement between us as citizens, the government, business, labor, as well as civil society on how we plan to move forward together. But for now, please allow me to do a few housekeeping rules. At the beginning of the meeting, we announced the tech platform, the application that we will be using to interact throughout the day. So you may experience a few lagging issues with the internet. Please just try again. When you log onto that site and you scan that QR code, make sure to please use the same email address that you used to register for this event. That specific platform is going to assist you in actually participating in today, as we're going to have breakaway conversations and going into particular themes of what we plan to cover throughout the national dialogue.
Thank you, Lerai. Now, because we are Africans and in African tradition, we must be welcomed before we continue with the work of the day. It is my utmost pleasure to welcome to the stage the Vice Chancellor of UNISA, Professor Buleng Linkabu.
I'm so short. Program directors, thank you very much for inviting me. I want to apologize. They say they want to help me because you cannot see me. I'm a little bit challenged, and therefore I was still waiting for something to assist me. So I apologize. They think I'm hiding. Thank you very much. I have decided it's not me that you should see, but it's the message that the university is sharing. So I will proceed. His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, the President of the Republic of South Africa, Deputy President Mr. Paul Mashatile, former President and Deputy Presidents, Mr. Godidiza, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Justice Mandis Maya, Chief Justice of the Constitutional Court, Cabinet Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Members of Parliament, Premiers, Mayors, various public representatives and public sector leaders, leaders of the University of South Africa and all sister universities, TVET colleges as well as community colleges, the eminent group as appointed by the President of the Republic, representatives of other institutions in the public and private sectors, members of the leadership of various civil society, the religious community, organized labor, business, women, youth, people with requirements for universal access who live with disabilities, members of the media, delegates of the convention participants, fellow South Africans from all walks of lives and all protocols observed. Sanbonani, Dumelang, Absheni, Salam Alaikum, Nimacheroni, Lochani, Khotsong. Thank you for the opportunity to welcome you all to this historic convention of the National Dialogue of South Africa. Today is yet another turning point in the history of South Africa. It is a day in which we set a process in motion to define the future that we South Africans, the world, and the people of goodwill would want for us. A process that will culminate in a comprehensive national dialogue in which all South Africans can remake the South Africa of their dreams. A process in which we can build sufficient consensus on the vision, plans, outcomes we would like to see. A process that can help us to reclaim our futures and the outcomes we would like to see. It will also be a process that can help us to reclaim our futures in respect to peace, human dignity, happiness for all. We know that the present and the future is born out of the past. Because of this knowledge, we know who we are, we know where we come from. We come from a past of many pasts. We come from struggle, from suffering, pain, and we come from hope. We come from oppression, violence, dehumanization, and destruction. We come from a deeply divided and unequal past, with many of its elements still defining our lives and our land. And yet at the same time, it is through the struggle that we could triumph over the evils of colonialism and apartheid. We do not only come from dispossession, poverty, and exclusion. We also come from wealth, health, and prosperity. We come from the rich histories and histories and cultures that make us one of the strongest and proudest nations in the world. We are the people of great imaginations, discoveries, and innovations in almost all facets of life, a people of full culture and respect for the natural environment. We also come from the women and the workers who have built this beautiful land over centuries. And as their descendants, we know that their blood, sweat, and pain should mean that we have a stake in the present and the future, and that we dare not fail or cower in the face of adversity and in the setbacks. No matter how insurmountable the setbacks of the day may seem, we must march on. We also come from spiritualism and believe that humanizes, affirms, and protects. It is a belief and the value system that says all life is of equal worth and everyone deserves a place in the sun. I'd like to repeat, all life is of equal worth and everyone deserves the place in the sun. That is who we are, a people of many pasts, a people of many shades, united in our diversity. A people in a place of many ebbs and flows, twists and turns in our continuous search for the greater freedom. Today we are confronting a reality of national hopelessness, restlessness, and stagnation, including the real declines in the many important indicators of human development. In the land of plenty and boundless talent, We should be able to arrest the dangerous national situation. We have done it before, and we have emerged out of the most complex and opaque days of apartheid to build a new South Africa. This national dialogue process, which begins today, gives us a grand opportunity to find our true north again. I hope we take this opportunity to reclaim the great South African promise, a better equality of life for all, a governance system that works for all, a social coexistence that ensures that every South African can reach their full potential as human beings, agents of change, and masters of their own destinies. As the University of South Africa, we're truly honored and excited to be chosen as the seat of the first national convention that seeks to rebuild, reconnect, and reclaim the South African promise. In a true African spirit of Ubuntu, we believe that talking begins from the I. In order to talk, listen, and understand the next person, both friend and foe, you have to see them first. They must exist, and you must exist. And in this instance, the I is not the literal I. It is the heart and the imagination of what it means to being human together. The humanity of all parties must be affirmed, and then what follows is the sharing of ideas, of space and imagination about the past, the present, and the future, so that we can co-create life, nurture the environment, and produce the technologies that make life possible under the sun, including humanizing civilizations. It is for the same reason that women, children, and people of Palestine, Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ukraine, and/or Russia must first see each other before they can talk and find lasting solutions to peace, development, and prosperity. It is when we see each other, when we see the humanity in each other, that we would be able to reaffirm that we are inextricably bound together, and therefore the future that we must co-construct must be for the benefit of all, our government, our civil society, our public sector, our private sector, and all intersecting sectors to ensure that we reclaim the future together. Our university is the oldest university in the country. It is also the largest in South Africa and in the African continent. It takes 37% of the higher education system in our country. It is a partner to our country, to our continent, and to the best that Africans must project in the world. It is therefore for this reason that we at UNISA are committed to ensuring that while we engage in the critical issues of national importance, that you will enjoy the University of South Africa hospitality. You'll enjoy its architectures, its various cultural and historical sites, and monuments that make up our beautiful university. But above all, you must enjoy the commitment to being part of the emancipatory project and histories of this country, whether in the past as it would be in the future. Our relevance and value add to society is not only about teaching, learning, and research. It is also about engaged scholarship and community engagement, including facilitating and providing platforms for engagements, for learning together with one another from the varied vantage points, so that when we converge together to dream the future that we want to craft together. As universities, we are a public institution, which is necessarily invited to ensure that knowledge is transformative, is revolutionary. It creates opportunities for engagements so that we find cohesion, social capital, and even amongst foes and friends, or even foes and foes, that there is an opportunity for success. In a project of emancipation, it is important that universities are not ivory towers, but are partners. And it is for this reason that the University of South Africa accepted the invitation and the challenge to being the venue that hosts this important historic event in the life of our country. It is also one of the ways in which we realize our vision of being a truly African university, shaping futures in service of humanity. We also hope that we can use this opportunity and the processes that will follow to debate, to contest one another, but more importantly, to find the solutions to produce the outcomes that will create the South Africa that we yearn for. In our view, this is a dialogue of equals, and it should get us out of here feeling more energized and hopeful about the processes ahead and the South Africa that we yearn for. In his poem, Past, Present, Future, written as one word, the late poet laureate, Professor Housekeeping, says, "There are cycles in the circle. I may even mourn my deadness or mourn your death. In this sterile moment, asking, where is the life we came to live? Time will always be past, present, future is always now. Where then is the life we came to live?" Welcome to the University of South Africa, the University of the land, the home of leaders, the home of the democratic presidents of this country, the home of President Mandela, President Beki, President Ramaphosa, who are the alumnus of this university, and we are quite appreciative, President Ramaphosa, you being the alumnus of this university, reminding us of the imperative that we should talk, we should engage, we should all bring our talents together to ensure that this country prospers, not only in the economy, but in the social compact, in the knowledge, in the technologies, as well as in the contribution that South Africa and Africa make in the world. Let me conclude with the words of our alumnus, the first democratic president, Ubaba Madiba, President Nelson Mandela, as he says, "May the sun never set on this glorious process. Let the South African promise flourish." Thank you. You're welcome to UNISA.
A louder round of applause. The University on the Mountain, I imagine, is one that can claim all of us as its products at one point or the other. Thank you so much, Prof, for those remarks. We feel very welcome, and in fact, you have set us on this clear path as we engage in this conversation that will involve more than 10 million South Africans. The 10 million is the minimum goal of the national dialogue. And as we kickstart this process with this launch, we do so with the absolute belief, and I will pick from what you've just mentioned around how we are a people of many paths. And African literature tells us that it is our mandatory responsibility to not only remember it, but to reimagine it. And I hope that we can do so as a collective. I call onto the stage Ntate Reverend Zoida Hunevudali, who will lead us in the moment of silence and reflection that we will be having. We also just want to put you at ease and update you that the colleague who had a medical emergency is being taken care of and being treated, and they are being taken care of. Thank you.
Program Directors, His Excellency, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa Chirwapsiku Charamabulana, the head of state, and today as we gather, the convener of this August epoch-making First National Convention, Deputy President of the Republic, members of the Eminent Persons Group, fellow citizens, all protocol observed. We have one beautiful country, dynamic, diverse religions, many faiths. Every faith and religion that does not cause harm is accommodated in our beautiful country. This is our kairos as a country, a moment we dare not miss, a moment of listening, reflections, and honest conversations. My task is to invite all of us for a moment of silent prayers and reflections, uniting in our prayers, shaping our country. Christian, Baha'i, Hindu, African traditional religions, Rastafarians, just to name a few. Let us join forces and lift our hearts in a moment of silent prayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Siyabonga, siyabonga, siyabonga. We will now have a musical performance by Ipupo. So please give them a round of applause as they take to the stage. our program. We are now going to be going into our first panel for the day. Thank you. We will now be going into our first panel for the day, a short panel, followed by the speech by the head of state, President Cyril Ramaphosa. And after that, we will then take a short break for, I'll get back to you on how long that break will be, and then we will come back into the room for the second part of the day. As our panelists for the first panel get ready to come up, this is our very first panel of this convention, because before we can imagine any of the solutions that are going to come out of the national dialogue process throughout the next 6 to 8 months, we first have to be honest about the problems to get to the solutions. So I would like to please call up Sinesipho Soxuzwa from the Unemployed People's Movement, speaking for the grassroots and for the citizens who feel excluded from economic opportunity. I will then like to call up Professor Musawenkosi Saurombe from the Forum of Stalwart Foundations, bringing insights on leadership, values, and bridging the gap between generations. And then I would like to call on Boichoko Ditlhake, who's here to speak on behalf of the National Dialogue, on the National Dialogue process itself and how it can be a tool for transforming housing, urban development, infrastructure, and many, many more. Can we please have those panelists join us on stage? In this conversation, we are going to explore what is at stake, why now is the moment, and how a citizen-led process can move us from identifying the problems and building solutions all together. Do we have our other two panelists here with us? Boichoko, as well as Prof. Musawenkosi. Thank you. Apologies, please give us a moment as we wait for Boichoko. Apologies, apparently there's a crisis happening outside that had to be dealt with. In the meantime, I'll move on to you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sinesipho Soxuzwa. I am from the Unemployed People's Movement in Makhanda. We are here today as the voice of the unemployed, especially young, Black, working class women in townships and rural areas. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. All protocol observed, Your Excellency, all honorables and distinguished guests. I am Musawenkosi. I'm an associate professor at the University of Johannesburg, and I represent the Stalwarts Foundation Forum. Thank you.
He's saying that his people are not represented in the dialogue. I'm so thrown off. I thought we were just gonna like deliver our speeches and that's it. Oh my goodness.
Tololo, uvalo, valo, tololo. Okay.
Okay, they can continue.
And then they'll come into the person, if they would like to come in, they can go into the overflow room. We are not excluding anybody. Okay. I would just like to update you all on what we are currently experiencing. I think the first point that we need to make clear to everybody, today is a national convention. Today is the opening and the launch of the national dialogue. Today is not the national dialogue. Convention, Nyayazi World Cup. The World Cup has football games happening across the country. The opening match happens in one place. We are at the opening match. This process has been designed specifically to be inclusive, has been designed to be led by citizens, and that is why we have citizen-led foundations that are part of it. That is why we have a panel of citizens that are representing groups of people. We do not intend on excluding any groups of people. However, there is only so much space in this room, and we have made accommodations for an overflow room. So those who are outside and wish to come in, can we please do so with order? If you would like to be in the room, we have an overflow room, but can we please not disrupt today? Ngicela ukuthi nje singaxabani tu. All right. Can we continue with the day? Our president has been waiting to convene. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, may we please settle down in the room? Okay. I think, Sinesipo, I'd like to start with you, please. You work at the heart of communities where unemployment isn't just a statistic. It's a daily reality. From what you're hearing on the ground, what are people saying that they need most urgently from our democracy today?
So, from this dialogue specifically, the word on the street, or what we must come out with, is that we must promote local industries so that jobs are created where people live. We must oblige the private sector to invest in communities instead of extracting from them and not giving back. And that we must ensure a living wage so that people are uplifted and not trapped in poverty cycles. So that's the energy on the ground.
Okay, and so in terms of speaking about solutions to this, is there anything that you guys have discussed so far?
Not really, no.
Okay, all right. I'll just move on to Sir, Mr. Boychoko. We've had a bit of a morning. Let's first, I think you were meant to go at the end of the panel, but I think to clarify the process of the national dialogue and what today is about as the national convention, can you please give us a bit of insight into that?
Okay, thanks very much and good morning. At the very heart of where and why we are here is for our ability as South Africans, firstly to acknowledge that we have challenges as a country. It is the first opportunity since the dawn of our democracy. We need to find a way in which we can be able to talk to each other, because the solutions are many, varied, and some deep. And it is only through us talking as South Africans that we will be in a position to find the common and the shared tomorrow. This convention is precisely designed to kick-start a process for all of us as South Africans to find a way in which we can find lasting solutions. It is intended as a kickstart. We didn't come here to debate the substantive issues. We are here to set the framework and the pathway in which we are going to engage with each other. We are here representing our communities, our constituencies, both sectorally and provincially, so that we all understand how we are going to engage communities. If we agree that at the very most, we'll have to engage more than 10 million South Africans to find a way in which how they think and understand their challenges and what possible solutions could be. That is the purpose of this. And those discussions, let us reserve them for the communities from the ward level right up to the national level. And because as a purpose and strategic intent of this process is to explore these issues. And we will come back after several months of engagement and dialogue with ourselves as communities. And then we'll come back and report back to this August forum what we have found and what we believe are the recommendations from South Africans across the length and breadth of the Republic of what needs to happen. That is the essence and the context of this convention. Let us set the rules of the game, but it must be citizen-led. The citizens has to arise and ensure that they own up to this opportunity, so that at the end of the day, they know that it is their own recommendations and resolutions to find long-lasting. It is in that context, because as we'll outline earlier, the draft modalities that collectively we must shape, because we are here representing constituencies where we come from. We will understand the best modalities which can be employed to assist communities across South Africa to engage and contribute. And that's why we are here. And then we'll go back to them and say, this is what we have agreed, how we are going to play this process. And we'll be able to strengthen all these modalities as we go along. And I'm sure that we are ready, we understood that purpose, that nobody else will solve South African problems except ourselves.
Prof. Musa Wengosi, I want to give you a slightly layered question. Speaking about representation and how can we ensure that something like this is done and that each community is represented and is touched. We've just had to deal with an issue of with an indigenous community feeling like they're not represented. How do we, through a process like this, tackle those issues?
Thank you for the question, moderator. It's very imperative that those who are marginalized in society are represented. And if you look at the discourse even over the years, it has been about fighting for those who do not have that voice. And if you look at giants such as Mama Tleke, that is what she stood for, you know. And even as, you know, she returned from her escapades abroad after having acquired her BSc degree in the United States, her purpose was to ensure that there is representation. I'm sure we can all recall, you know, in the echelons of history, how she insisted on women representation within a meeting that was held, you know, by the South African Native Convention. And so that is what we see also repeating in today's society, that those who are marginalized will continue to fight to have a voice. And I believe this is why we are all here, to give those who are not afforded the opportunity to even be in this room and to speak for them, because we are not representing ourselves, but those also who don't have the voice and the platform.
Prof, I want to just go a little bit deeper with you. We've often, I think with this process of the national dialogue, it's been received with a lot of skepticism. And oftentimes when something new, when change is being introduced, it will not always be openly accepted, right? But what we're seeing is this process being compared to the Freedom Charter being drafted, to the South African Constitution being drafted. What does a process like this, and it sort of seems like we're at the helm of history, whatever comes out of this process will be something that is going to be taught in history books will be something that is going to be applied and will hopefully be the bedrock of a new South African society. How do we ensure that something like that continues to happen, and sort of looking at the other processes that we have gone through, what can we learn and make sure that we apply this time?
I believe that's why the whole process of consultation is very important. Now, as an academic in the field of industrial psychology and people management, I have had the privilege of interacting with material and also doing research in aspects of reconciling, for example, the perceptions of people in managerial positions and organizations and the employees on the ground. And I believe it's very much like, what often happens in the context where those who are in national leadership positions versus those who are on the ground, there are irreconcilable perceptions. And this is why this national dialogue is so critical in bridging that gap. There's an ancient Chinese proverb which says, as a leader, you need to, and I paraphrase, as a leader, you need to check if people are following, because if no one is following, you're just taking a walk. And I think it's very important that leaders start to ask themselves, are we taking a walk? Are people still following us? Are we still having the same objectives, the same goals, the same mandate? And this is why this initiative is very critical.
Sinesipo, I want to come back to you. When people are excluded from the economy, they are often excluded from decision making. How do you and your organization see this particular process creating spaces for real human beings, for unemployed and marginalized voices to shape the solutions that affect them?
So, as the people on the ground, we believe that, or we want this national dialogue to not be just another polite conversation that avoids the truth. We want this dialogue to tackle the issues that we deal with on a daily. We want it to go to the root of the unemployment issue. And we have talked and talked and talked, and we have come to the conclusion that the process should reject, or this whole dialogue should reject the failed neoliberalism and build an economy that's going to serve the people first and defend public goods. And defend public goods such as water, electricity, transport, and housing as rights and not as commodities. And we want and out of this dialogue, we want to end austerity because it starves our people. It starves us from the very basic services that we depend on. We want this dialogue to guarantee free, quality education from primary school to university level, because we believe that that is an investment in our future. So we are not here for charity. We are not here to be pitied. As the grassroots and working class, we demand real power and inclusion. That's... Okay.
I'd like to get a bit of clarity on the specific process of the national dialogue and how we can ensure that it is accessible. When I heard about ward conversations, it did frighten me a bit, because I don't know about you all, but I personally am not that involved in my ward. I don't really attend regular meetings. And so this process would require people to regularly attend those meetings. Is there another accessible platform or another way in which people will be able to be involved in this national dialogue? And how do we sort of, you've told us that we can have these conversations at home, but is there a specific toolkit that you guys are giving us to ensure that everybody anywhere can host their own national dialogue?
Thanks very much. If we look into the process of the national dialogue, the first thing that we must think about very deeply is how do we activate South Africans to own up to the governance and development of the country? How do we assist and start building the community structures to engage, for example, with the local governance process, municipalities? Because in many instances, some of our laws allows and enables communities to participate. But more often we are not using these possibilities. For example, how do we understand priorities which have been determined, for example, by a municipality at the local level? Therefore, the national dialogue is structured in such a way that simultaneously it assists communities to own up in the development of the country. At the ward level, each ward is going to have 3 structured dialogues. And there is a toolkit that assists, and there will be community-based facilitators which will appreciate different communities in which they exist, to talk to them and to talk with each other. That will be replicated across, as we have sectors around here, that a variety of sectors from the youth, women, business, labor, faith-based, will accordingly have some of the structured dialogues. But we are also creating a mechanism for self-activated dialogues by communities. For example, a particular community in Matatiele can say, we want to discuss our issues. All what we need to do is create a mechanism that the outcome of that self-created and self-activated community dialogue, it finds a space in the formal processes that we are doing, that the amplification of the community voice must find themselves in the final conclusions of this process. That will be very critical. We have put in, the new steering committee, when it comes, it will also put in place. We have to utilize technology to reach out to communities, and we know that the youth of today were actually born into this technology. They will have to assist their elders, their communities, to ensure that they effectively participate. That toolkit is already online for everybody to go through it, amplify and strengthen it, and see how it can be modified in different situations at the community level. But we are certain that we will empower communities to take charge and own up to the process. And they must feel that they are making a difference and they have contributed to the new vision of South Africa.
So what I'm getting from you is that based off of the technology that the National Dialogue Committee, Organizing Committee, have designed a platform, a website, in which I myself as a citizen, if I wish to host a national dialogue myself and my community, I go onto that website and I will get the toolkit. The toolkit is what is going to equip me with what I need to be able to host the national dialogue. What are the specific points that need to be spoken about in the conversation, etc., etc. So that is how accessible and how easy this national dialogue process is going to be. Not only for us to attend physically in our wards, but we will be able to have a toolkit in our hands where we can host these dialogues ourselves. We're going to have to close the panel off for now, so thank you so much. Please give our panelists a round of applause. I'd like to call up Iphupho Lagabigo as we set up the stage.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lerai, and apologies to the band. Unfortunately, because we started late, we are running out of time. We have to go straight into the next item. Comrades, colleagues, friends, everyone else who identifies otherwise, we are now going to hear more from the Eminent Persons Group. Apologies, there are many changes because we are moving in quite a fast pace. we will be welcoming onto the stage the president of the country at this hour. However, before he rises, Mr. President, I hope you heard that call that was made in that panel. A question was asked that every now and then there be a pause among our leaders to look behind and see who is following. And we can't wait to hear as you give us the line of march as the convener of the National Dialogue. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and help me welcome onto the stage Ntate Cyril Ramaphosa, who is the President of South Africa. There. Not today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Program directors, our two lovely ladies who are leading us today. The Vice Chancellor of the University of South Africa, my alma mater, where I was educated. Thank you, thank you. Members of the Eminent Persons Group, and specifically the co-chairs, Professor Iniko Maruleke and Mr. Ruth Mayer, and all the other EPG members, whose names I will want to outline towards the end of my input. Distinguished guests, I also want to greet the Speaker of our National Assembly, Traore. I heard word that the Chief Justice, Manisa Maya, might be here, and I greet her if she is here. I greet ministers and deputy ministers. I'd like to greet members of parliament, representatives and leaders of civil society, traditional leaders who are here amongst us, faith-based organizations, leaders, and I welcome back to those who are here within us, who are eminent leaders of various faith-based organizations, business and labor leaders, youth and women's movement, leaders and representatives of political parties, esteemed guests, and most importantly, my fellow South Africans. I'd like to welcome you all to this historic gathering. I have called this first national convention in my capacity as your president, as the head of state. I do so in line with Section 83 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. This gives me a locus standi. For all of us who are here, we are all equal. But it gives me locus standi because I happen to be the state president. So Section 83 of our Constitution requires that the president, as the head of state and the head of the national executive, should promote the unity of the nation and that which will advance the Republic of South Africa and its people. This is what brings me here. And this is why I invited all of you to be here and to be part of this dialogue. So it is with that authority, if anyone were to ask you. I should thank everyone who is here today for accepting this invitation. I am truly humbled and very touched that all of you have heeded this invitation and have come through to this meeting so that we can have a dialogue. You have traveled from many parts of our country, in fact, from all parts of our country, to be here. This is a true honor to me as your president. It is a true honor to all of us, to each one of us. We should feel honored. Today marks the first sitting of the National Convention of the National Dialogue, a space where we confront our realities openly, respectfully and constructively. This is not a partisan platform. This is a national platform. Here, no voice is too small. No perspective is too inconvenient to be heard. We are gathered to listen to each other, to understand one another, and to chart a common path forward for our country. We are meeting at a time of profound challenges that confront our country and our people. Economic hardships that our people are living under, unemployment that continues to rise, inequality that besets our people, growing poverty, and a crisis of confidence in our institutions. We also meet at a time when the world is rapidly changing and our own ability to adapt and renew ourselves will define the next generation. But history teaches us that nations are not defined solely by their difficulties. Nations are defined by how they respond to the challenges that confront them. Our own struggle for freedom from the nightmare of apartheid proved that unity in diversity is not an abstract slogan. History teaches us that unity is a powerful force for change, for transformation. Gathered in this hall today are people from all across our land, people from all walks of life, people of all races, of all classes, all languages and cultures. Gathered here at this national convention are farmers, are informal traders, civic activists, policymakers, traditional leaders, waste pickers, industrial workers, the unemployed men and women of our country, the unemployed young people, unemployed graduates, eminent religious leaders, business people, and public servants like me. There are also young people and older people like me, men and women, people from informal settlements and rural villages. There are people with disabilities amongst us. There are survivors of various forms of violence. There are artists, there are sports people and cultural activists. In this national convention is gathered the rich diversity of the people of this country. Yet, although we are different in many ways, although we represent different experiences and memories and hold different views, there is one thing that we have in common. And that one thing that we have in common is that we are South Africans. We are, each one of us, sons and daughters of the same soil, the South African soil. Whether people like it or not, we are sons and daughters of the soil, of Mzansi. This is where we come from. So we share a common past, but we also share a common destiny. We share the same inheritance of division, of inequality, of pain, and of injustice. We share the same pride at ending the crime of apartheid and establishing a constitutional democracy. We also share a common future. That future binds us together. And that is why we have chosen to gather here today. Because each one of us, regardless of our differences, is committed to working together to build this future that we all dream of. We have chosen to be here, voluntarily chosen that we will gather here as South Africans. We've chosen to be here because we believe in the power of dialogue and united action. And dialogue, by the way, is not a new phenomenon amongst us as South Africans. We have always dialogued to solve the most intractable problems that have confronted our country. We gathered together, and let me add that even as dialogues have happened in our country, there have been moments where others chose not to participate. There have been moments when others said, no, what is this all about? We are not going to be part of it. Now, I will tell you a story which I hope will not embarrass one of those who told me the other time, and is the leader of the Pan-Africanist Congress. He's here. He serves in my cabinet. And as we were preparing for the dialogue, he said to me, President, We, as the Pan-Africanist Congress, we have always historically refused to participate in various dialogues. We were not there in Kliptown. They call it Kliptown, when the Freedom Charter was drafted. We were not there when there was a dialogue to end violence in our country. We were not there when the Constitution was drafted, when there was that broad dialogue. And he said, we feel that our voice, our views were not heard. And he said, this time round, Aibo, we are going to participate. We are going to be part of it. So there are those who are standing outside, who are saying we are not going to participate, and we grant them that freedom. But one day, they will be like the PAC. They will realize that they should have been part of the dialogue. Because dialogue is about bringing people together, getting all of us to speak together, not to speak at each other, and not to talk away from each other. It should involve talking together. We believe that if we share our concerns and our fears, we can conquer them. If we understand the challenges we face, we can overcome them. If we know what hurts us, we can heal. If we know what divides us, we can unite. We gather here today in all our diversity to launch a national dialogue. We are embarking on a process that will launch 1 million conversations amongst our people. Now, this is a great honor, to be able to instigate conversations amongst our people. All of us seated here must see ourselves as being truly honored that today we get to sit here and we are launching a process that will involve, I see this conversation going way beyond the 10 million people who might participate. It will encompass many more millions of people in our country. This is truly a historic moment. Across the length and the breadth of South Africa, people will and must meet to talk of what worries them, what gives them hope, and how they think their lives and our country can be better. We all agree that our country is not where it ought to be. We all agree that there are many things that are broken in our country. Getting together, talking to each other, we should be able to find solutions on how we can put many of the things that are broken in our country together. This initiative is about what all South Africans must do together to make our lives and our country better. It is also about getting leaders to be able to realize what worries South Africans and how leaders themselves can be engaged in understanding the lives of South Africans and be accountable. And to look, yes, as my sisters were saying here, to look behind and see whether there are still people who are following them. Through this process, we want our people to meet in homes and community halls. We want them to meet in churches, in synagogues, in mosques and temples. Our people must meet in schools and lecture halls, in boardrooms and on the shop floor, on the pathways of our villages and the streets of our townships and our cities. We will meet online. We will be tech savvy, as many South Africans are already tech savvy, I found out during COVID. South Africans know technology. They are way ahead. They know technology. When we started distributing the 350, I tell you, it was through technology that they were able to immediately snap it. Even though they say, hi, Uramatposa, Otanda, O Mahlalela. They did it through technology. So we will meet online. We will call into radio stations. We will debate on television. Yes, there will be many television shows. We will share our views and make our suggestions without hesitation. And we will be direct and honest. And we will need to have difficult conversations about many issues, including why do South African women have to live in fear of the men of our country? This is Women's Month, and I'm glad that these conversations should start this month, that we as the men of South Africa must begin to internalize this question. Why do the women of South Africa fear us as men in the streets, in the classrooms, and even in our homes? We need to ask ourselves those questions. We also need to ask ourselves, why do so many people live in abject poverty and so few live lives of opulence? Why, after decades of democracy, are the prospects of a white child so much better than those of a black child? We need to ask ourselves that. We also need to ask ourselves, why do women get paid less than men for the same work? That's what we need to ask ourselves. Now, we also must go deeper and ask ourselves why, when we have a Bill of Rights in our Constitution, are the LGBTQI plus people still discriminated against? Why are they still stigmatized and harassed? Why do clinics run out of medicine? Are questions that we must ask ourselves. And why do taps run dry? These are some of the questions that we must be willing to ask and which we must be prepared to find answers for. But more than that, my fellow South Africans, these are the challenges that we must be ready to do something about. As individuals, as organizations, as communities, as parents, as elected representatives, and as public officials. The national dialogue is a call to debate and to discuss, but it is also much more than that. More importantly, the national dialogue is a call to action. It is a call to all South Africans to seize this moment for change and progress. And this we cannot do when we are sitting on the sidelines. This we cannot do when we do not want to be part of this conversation. And this we cannot do when we sit on the sidelines and just criticize. We need to be inside the tent rather than being outside of the tent. And we also need to have one tent. We do not need another tent where other conversations will take place. This is the real tent where conversation must take place. Now, it is a call to build a society in which there is a place for everyone, where the country's wealth is shared by all. A South Africa that truly belongs to all the people who live in it. We have come together in this national convention not to have the dialogue, but to start the dialogue. Gathered here, all of us together, we are well over 1,200 or 300 across many organizations and sectors. Our task is to prepare for the thousands of public dialogues that will happen in communities across the country over the next 6 to 8 months. We are here to consider some of the themes that may arise in those discussions, understanding that it is ultimately the people of this country that will determine the issues that should be discussed. And this is what we call citizen-centered dialogues and discussions. We are here to reflect on how we should approach these public dialogues, what methods we should use to ensure that everyone has a say and that the discussions take place in an environment that promotes understanding and that encourages healing. Through this convention, we seek to equip delegates to be champions and enablers of these public dialogues. We seek to ensure that we give the space to South Africans to define the outcome of the national dialogue process, so that those thousands of conversations can be drawn into a clear vision for the country and an agreed program of action into the future. There is history to this. When we drafted our constitution, and I'm glad that Ruth Meyer, who played a pivotal role, together with some who are here, including myself, is here today, because we participated in the process of ensuring that as we drafted the Constitution, we involved many of our people throughout the country to discuss the key elements that should go into our Constitution. And today, the Constitution that we have is a people-driven and a people-drafted Constitution. That is what we have. Now, through the national dialogue process, we hope to arrive at a social compact that will outline the role and the responsibility of all of us as citizens, as the arms of the state, business, labor, traditional leaders, religious bodies, civic organizations, activists, and various other social structures. This national dialogue must be about citizens taking responsibility for their own future. Through the dialogues that will take place, people must be able to attend to the challenges that we are facing, where they live, where they study, where they work. They must be able to hold their public representatives accountable and ensure that all public institutions fulfill their responsibilities. The National Convention is the moment at which the people of South Africa take over the national dialogue. For more than a year, various formations of civil society have been working to conceptualize and champion the national dialogue. Central to this effort have been a number of legacy foundations established by and named for stalwarts of our liberation struggle. We express our gratitude and appreciation for the work of these foundations in giving life to the national dialogue. And let's give them a round of applause for having done all this work. Now, we also thank all those from civil society, government departments, provincial government, state-owned enterprises and businesses who have worked tirelessly to bring this national convention together. I specifically like to say at government level, the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, who is here with us today, led this process in the interministerial committee that I gave him the responsibility to lead. And he, from a government point of view, led this process from the back, allowing the process to evolve independently without too much government interference. To the extent that government got involved, if you like, it was light touch. Kancane nje, lapho nalapho. It was never led by the government. It was just mbijana, lapho nalapho kuphela. That's how it worked. Because we held the belief that this must be citizen-led. And today we are pleased that we are going to elect or choose a steering committee which will be a citizen-composed steering committee. And to the extent that, yes, we will be involved, it will just be to give it that little bit of support, logistical support, financial support. And let me talk about the finances, because there was this concern that this dialogue is going to cost 740 million rand. As soon as I saw the number, I said, I shall not allow the taxpayers' money that amounts to 740 million rand to be utilized. We can have this dialogue much cheaper, much lower costs must be the order of the day. That is what we did. And you know what? We were very fortunate. The University of South Africa, the Vice Chancellor, the good professor, immediately said, you know what, to cut off all those costs, we'll give you this beautiful venue for free. And now we got it for free. Now, that is exactly what we are going to seek to do. We will be going around the country. We will desist from hiring halls, expensive halls in hotels, and so on. We will want to hold the various dialogues in schools. We'll hold it in churches, not in beer halls, no. And we will hold them under the tree and all that. So that is how we are going to bring the cost down, because the people of South Africa do not want us to be spending too much money on the conversations that we are going to have. So we are extremely grateful to the Vice Chancellor and the leadership and staff of the UNISA for hosting this national convention and providing the facilities and the services that they've made possible. I wish to thank the members of the Eminent Persons Group, all of whom graciously and enthusiastically accepted my invitation to serve as the champions and guarantors of the national dialogue. These esteemed South Africans are Dr. Brigelia Bam, former Independent Electoral Commission chairperson, who accepted this role. Mr. Robbie Brozen, entrepreneur and business person. Judge Edwin Cameroon. I think we'll applaud them all together when I finish. Otherwise, you're going to be very tired. Judge Edwin Cameroon, former Constitutional Court judge. Mr. Mani Dipicho, former Northern Cape Premier, Dr. Desiree Ellis, Banyana coach and football legend. I knew you wanted to applaud her. Miss Ella Gandhi, peace activist and stalwart. Miss Nomboniso Gasa, researcher and rural activist. Mr. Bobby Gotzel, a business leader, particularly in the mining industry. Dr. John Kani, award-winning actor. I knew you would applaud that. But he's not going to act on stage today. Mr. Siya Kolisi, Springbok captain and world champion. Miss Mia Leroux, Miss South Africa 2024. His Grace, Bishop Barnabas Lekhanyane, leader of the Zion Christian Church. And His Grace Bishop Enganas Lekhanyane, leader of the St. Enganas Zion Christian Church. The Most Reverend Thabo Makgoba. How can the Most Reverend, I missed something, because Leana ke Bishop, ke Archbishop. The Most Reverend Archbishop Thabo Makgoba, yes, Anglican Archbishop of Cape Town. Professor Tinyiko Maluleke, who is the chairperson of the National Planning Commission. Dr. Barbara Masekela, Os Barbara, poet, educator, and stalwart. Ms. Lindiwe Mazibuko, former member of parliament. When she was in parliament, she used to give me a lot of trouble. Mr. Rolf Meyer, former minister and constitutional negotiator and a good friend. Ms. Glenwan Mhlophe, storyteller, writer and actor. Ms. Nompendulo Mkaachwa, former member of parliament and fees must fall activist. Ms. Khutatso Monjane, Grand Slam tennis champion. Professor Harry Rangwedzi Nengwekhulu, former activist and educationist. Mr. Begin Chalinchali, unionist and former COSATU General Secretary. Hosi Filia Nwamitwa, traditional leader, Hosi Amin. Hosi Thabo Siatlulo, chairperson of the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders. Dr. Gloria Sirobe, business leader. Bishop Sitembile Sipuka, president of the South African Council of Churches. Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman, founder of the Gift of the Givers. Professor Derek Schwartz, academic. Ms. Lurato Trok, author and early literacy expert. Mr. Sibusiso Vilani, mountaineer and adventurer, those who go on to the mountains. Mr. Siabulela Kuza, award-winning scientist and entrepreneur, the only South African who has a planet named after him. Now, I took the trouble to read all their names because they are the eminent persons group that I appointed on advice from a number of people, including from the PTT. These are the men and women who are going to be the champions, the guarantors, the wise minds that are going to steer this whole process forward, working together with our steering committee, working together with, yes, a management team that will be put in place, working together with the administrators and the secretariat who are NEDLAC. Now, since their appointment, the EPG, they have provided valuable guidance and support to me and to all those involved in this work. Lastly, I wish to thank all the delegates to this convention and everyone who is following these proceedings around the country. I do thank the EPG because when there was doubt on whether we should proceed with this convention today, they met and gave me counsel and gave everyone counsel who was involved and said to me, President, much as people might think that we are not entirely ready, the invitations have already gone out. Many people have already been invited. If we are to postpone this important national event, it will dampen the occasion, people will be more doubtful, trust will be lost, and they said we best continue with this dialogue. And as with all other events, there will always be gaps, there will always be shortcomings, but it is always best to press ahead and to get as much work that needs to be done. And I'm truly pleased that they gave that advice, because those who have been doing the work, the organizing committee, has pulled out all stops to make this day possible. And I'd like us to give them a round of applause. Now, all of you who are here, you have taken upon your shoulders a historic task. You have taken upon your shoulders the responsibility to launch a conversation among South Africans that will reach every corner of our country, that will determine the future of our nation. Let this national convention be a call to every South African to participate, to be heard, and to be counted. This convention should not be remembered for the fine speeches alone, but the process it begins towards a new roadmap, a framework for political stability, economic renewal, social cohesion, national unity, and how we can continue to build a capable and ethical state. We must aim to emerge from this process with a shared national vision, one that is bold enough to inspire, yet practical enough to be implemented. So let us speak with courage, without any fear. Let us listen with humility, and let us negotiate amongst ourselves with goodwill. Let us be reminded that our disagreements on any issue are small compared to the magnitude of what we can achieve working together. In the words of the Freedom Charter, which says, the people shall govern, that governance should start here, with a dialogue that belongs to the nation. I declare the first National Convention of the National Dialogue of South Africa officially open. And may our work be guided by wisdom, your wisdom. May our work be grounded in truth and be blessed with the spirit of Ubuntu. The spirit of Ubuntu that must guide us for ourselves and for generations to come. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. President. We are going to swiftly move on to the next item. We would love to enjoy song and dance, and there will be time for that. Please help me.